The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, good morning, or welcome. Thanks for joining us today. Can we do a hands up for audio? So I just need to have the hands up button for everyone that can hear me, please, just to check that we're all functioning. That's great. Thanks, David, Drazen, Gregoire, Nicholas. Lovely. Looks like everyone can hear me. Thanks so much, everyone. That's great. Hi, good morning and welcome. Thanks for joining us today. My name's Sarah. I'm the Marketing Director here at ATDI, for those of you who are new to our event. Today is a user group meeting. We've changed from our usual Friday slot to Thursdays, and we'll be holding one this month for September, and we'll be holding a similar event in November as well. So this is the first time we've run a user group meeting on a Thursday. So it'll be every other month on a Thursday for user group meetings. Every other month, aside from the user group meetings, will be webinars now. And all of our information can be found on our events website. Okay, so just to kick off, today we have Simon Parsons. He's our lead engineer at ATDI. He'll be running today's event. We're expecting it to run for about 45, 50 minutes, something like that. It really depends on the questions that we get from you guys and how quickly we can speed through things. This is a user group, so the idea is that you can interact with us, whether that's directly through me, through the questions toolbar, or whether you want to talk to Simon directly, you can put your hands up and I can unmute you and you can talk to him. So that's basically the format. The format will be a series of subjects. I think we've got 4 subjects that we're covering today, and we've got a whole load of handy hints. These are those easy to use functions in telecom that you may not be aware of, just to make your use of the tool that much smoother. I will be recording today's event, so that will be available to share with colleagues who've not attended today who may wish to see it. I'll be sending you a link for that at the end of the event, and we've also got a couple of handouts that will be included in that. As I said, Q&A, questions and answers. We have an opportunity to use the questions toolbar during the event. Outside of that, we'll have a questions and answers session at the end of the event. If you've got any questions that are outside of the remit of what we're covering in terms of content, please hang on to that. We're happy you can put it to us at the end. Okay, so I'm going to take this opportunity to hand over to Simon, and we can make a start.
Right. Good morning, everyone. I'm hoping you can all see my screen. Sarah, is the front page visible?
It is, yeah.
It is. Okay, right. What I'll do then is I'll just go on to the next page, which is the agenda. These are the 4 items we're going to be doing. We'll do them in a change to the. If any of you've done this before, you'll know that in the old days we voted on what we want to hear first, and it was done in that order. This time we're going to actually have a running order, or a fixed running order, because this actually flows in a particular way, and it works out a little bit better this way, in that you'll learn how to find out about things before I start telling you about them. So we've got four things on the agenda. The first one is how to find help for functions. This is really just because it's recently we've had a few people either turn up for training or just ask questions, and these questions can be answered by relatively simply from within the application, as long as you've got an internet connection. If you haven't got an internet connection, then there might be other ways around it, but generally speaking, you need an internet connection for this to work. So you can find help within the document quite quickly. The next item is finding the correct parameters for creating a station. That's really most of the time you can get away with using the generic parameters, but there is a function for taking on more specific parameters for specific types of stations, which we'll show you about there's an option. The next option is random subscribers, primarily to find suitable places to serve areas. So it's sort of useful if you've oh, I don't know, taken over an internet service or wireless internet service provider franchise for an area and for a small town, and you want to see where would be a good place to put your point of presence, that sort of stuff. You can use it for other things. I'll show a couple of other things that can be done as well. And then automatically reducing the power on microwave links for required availability, not medium wave, microwave. I know it should be mu lambda, but in ATDI we use MW. That's really just an automatic power adjustment. When you can set a microwave link, give it the kind of reliability that you require or availability you require. Give it an option of how much power to adjust from where you've already originally set it, and the tool will produce well, come up with a good suggestion for power. In some countries you really don't need to worry about that unless you're a regulator, because you just say where there's a link, and then you get a license, and the license tells you how much power to run. You have no say in the matter. But in some options or some countries and in some situations you can do that. So anyway, what we'll do is we'll start with finding help. Now the most important one is to know about the F1 key. That's the most important one. Then there's a documentation system, and then you can ask us questions. So what I'll do is we'll go into telecom. Here's ICS Telecom. Some of you might recognise the area, some of you might not. It's northeast Scotland, or at least East Scotland, Dundee. And if you're a golf fan, this green bit here is the golf course at Carnoustie, which has hosted various international events. Anyway, there's basically there's some hills in the top here, and Dundee itself is a small hole in the ground with a lump in the middle of it, just there, which seems to have all its telecoms on it. But it's a bowl with a road around it, and then hills are all the way around on the other side. So that's probably why people moved there in the first place. Right. So what we're going to do is, first thing we'll do is look for help. So what I'm going to do is I'll drop a microwave link on the table just for fun. I can explain how I do this, or what this is at some point. I know this was a previous FAQ. So there's a microwave link, and you're thinking to yourself, man, I wonder what I'm going to be able to do with that. Well, I'll sort out the link path budget, and at that point you think to yourself, how am I going to do this? And if you press F1, and it didn't do it on screen, but this pops up, which is a manual for the link path budget screen and how it all works. And we'll be doing a bit of that later on. That's the last option in the system. So that's really how that works. If you want the general how to get started manual in ICS Telecom, with no dialog boxes or anything else like that open, but the thing in, you just press F1 and the get it started document will load. And that's sort of the lightweight manual for telecom. There's still 123 pages of it. So that's how to get help from the F1 key. The other places you can get help, in fact, I think that was probably also on here. No, it's not on that one. Give me a mo. Is to dig up the. I've just got to find it now. I had it open, but it's elsewhere. Let's just dig through here. There we are. Is the Document Center, which is available if you have a technical support contract with either ATDI SA in Paris or for the UK, and they'll be in you will either have been given or you will have access to the username and password required for this to get into this. So this is unlike the other service. You can pick up documents without authorization. This is a little bit more difficult. So for instance, we want to know a bit about microwave links. That will pick up any file with the word microwave in the title. And if it's a document with microwave and power, then so this one is a document with microwave in the title and power in the content, somewhere the word power, and you get an option of 2, and that's probably the one you'll want if you want to know about how to set power within Telecom for a microwave link. In fact, that document will be available to you. Actually, it's one of the ones that we've got as downloads for today. That's essentially the how to do a microwave link manual. Hardly worth me telling you anything about it. It's all in there, honest. So I'll just remove that fellow. We don't need him at the moment. So that's how to get help. And of course, the alternative is technical support. And if you've got we're doing well here. I shall find the correct. Oh yeah, here's a handy hint. If you're alt-tabbing your way through lots of screens and you go too far, hold the Shift key down and then press Tab, and you go backwards. There you go. A non-Telecom handy hint. And if you have a technical support or maintenance contract, you can. Don't scroll too fast past it. If you send an email to technicalsupport@atdi.co.uk, if you're a UK customer and ask questions, that's fine. We don't do technical. We do technical support via technical support. We can't do training by technical support. But simple answers, problems. How do I do this? Or am I doing it wrong? Or what am I doing wrong? Yes, but training course is very much more difficult via technical support email. If you actually need to be trained, then the best thing to do is probably ask us, and we'll sort you out some training. Anyway, we'll just go back to there. So that's how to find or how to get help within Telecom. It's relatively easy, and the thing with the F1 key is that there are some things where I'll just try and find something that may not have a help file associated with it. This one probably hasn't got a help file associated with it. If you get that, that's because we haven't written a help file yet. There are hundreds of these things to write. Although the feature's been around for a long time, or the ability's been around for a long time, we've only really started populating it relatively recently. So quite a few of these pages don't yet exist. If there is one that you specifically want to have written for you, then that's fine. Just ask and we'll try and do something. This one is actually the preferences page is actually definitely one of the ones where we'll be writing something relatively soon. This is quite high on the priority list. It's a known one. So that's help files. Not always there, but more often than not. And because it's independent of Telecom, as you're updating versions of Telecom, or as you're working, we're in the background making these manuals. So if it doesn't work one week, it might work the next. Keep pressing F1 when you get a problem, and if it's something you really need an answer to, ask, and we'll see if we can produce the help pages. Or if you feel like writing your own, we can always convert it. Anyway, that's pretty much help files. One other thing. Let me go back here. No, I think we'll cover that pretty much covers what we're doing here at the moment. I think for finding help. There used to be an option to produce your own help files, and pick them up from within Telecom, but I'm not absolutely sure whether that function is still available. It's something I've got to test, so I won't go into it in any more detail, but local documentation was a possibility, and I think it still is, but I need to check with Paris whether or not the process has changed. But certainly for those of you without an internet connection, it's probably a good idea to have such a feature. Right, well, that's finding help. Sarah, do you want me to just drift straight on into the next subject, or do we ask questions?
Do we have any questions, anyone? If you could use your hands up, that would be useful. Just hands up if there are any questions, or you can just drop me something into the toolbar. So that's the questions toolbar. Okay, we haven't got any that are really immediately present, so let's move on to the next ones. Let's move on to the next subject.
Yeah, if you have any questions, press F1. Station parameters. This is actually a very simple little thing. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to deal with it. The station parameters are. I just need to make sure I've got the right page. There's actually a document on it that you've this is not yet covered by, strange as it may seem, an F1 key, but it's actually in a manual, which is also in the document list, called the ICS Telecom main functions. It's quite an old document. A lot of that is going to be turned into F1 help files at some point or another. So, but yes, it covers pretty much what you need to do. Not Telecom. Let's say we're going to create a station. Just randomly add one. Now here's a random station, and it is random. I mean, it's a random generic station. It's got its various technical parameters, coverage parameters, and administrative parameters, which can be used for filtering and that sort of stuff. The station itself looks a bit random because it's just with Telecom. When you start or create a new station, it creates a new station, which is basically the last thing you created. This is actually a microwave link, which is why it's on 23 gigs and it's 28 megs bandwidth and whatever. But if you're quite happy with just using these sort of generic, power levels and everything else, that's fine. If you're trying to produce information on a different sort of station, I mean, this one has general generic parameters. It's got a nice pencil beam antenna because it was original. The previous one I did was a microwave link. Has channels, site location, and advanced gives you some information to do here with more to do with the digital microwave link than anything else. Modulation is QPSK. I'll have that as undefined at this point in time. So if you want to do, let's say, specifically an LTE base station, for instance, or an LTE base station, you can, under signal type or signal, pick up any one of about 110 different types of signal. Although there isn't 110 in this version of Telecom, but there is in later versions. A couple of new ones have just been popped on. But down here under 60 is an LTE base station. Now, what that does is it does change some parameters automatically. It doesn't change the frequency, but it does change the transmit bandwidth, and it doesn't affect the antenna. Now, in the channel plan, we now have an option to add resource blocks and how many subcarriers, and this is sort of your general generic LTE station. So it picks up sort of general generic parameters which you can use, and if you've got a specific need, you can add them in there. And here you can see this end bit has now the end tag is now called eNode B set up, and you can put in various thresholds you need, and and you can balance the base station for upload and download rates depending on how you want to do it. So if it's if this is a cell phone base station and you've got subscribers or consumers, you would balance the download speed or the download rate. You'd have more download rate than upload because these people tend to consume rather than create, unless they're streaming or periscoping or something like that. And if this was a utility system, you'd have it probably the other way around, because most of the time your RTUs will be producing measurements and things, and you'll need to make sure that the maximum upload bandwidth is or the maximum bandwidth is for the upload, so the balance is reversed to a normal cell phone system, which is something to take into account when your local cell phone operator comes along and says that they can supply you with service. You've got to remember that for you, upload is more important than download if you're a utility. And there's various other things that you can do with it just to make it more LTE-like. So there is actually a full manual on that, and inside the main functions of ICS Telecom, it explains which system is for what, and what's updated. And there's a feeder loss calculator as well that you can pick up from this side button. Not here, changed its design, but that's where that sort of stuff happens. This is a button that has been there for a very long time, but even I didn't notice it was there. Typically, really. You can see here originally it was sort of like a beef burger button, you call them in the internet. So that's really the main features for making sure you've got the right sort of signal. And of course, there's other things. You can change your system type as well. There are some here that are just a little bit dangerous to use. I'll do this now. I'll turn that into a wind turbine. Once it's a wind turbine, you can't change it very easily back into anything else. You can actually, but you can't change the signal straight away. So if it's some of them, the whole layout changes. So you have a wind turbine now, and it's set the mast height to 5 meters, which means it's not going to do very good or very well. Reference frequency in megahertz, that's for calculating the RCS, not the actual transmit speed of the the wind turbine, how fast it spins around or anything like that. That's the frequency that the turbine's surface area is calculated for. Or it's not the surface area. It's in dB per square meter, so it'll be a reflective coefficient of some sort. Anyway, I shall cancel that. So that's how to set up your station for its types. But what I think I'll do is, unless there's any questions, Sarah, that's about as far as I can go into that without delving into the next part of the talk. So
any questions, anyone? Okay, we haven't had any come in, Simon. If you do have a question and we've moved on, by all means hang on to that question. You get a chance at the end to do it. Simon, the next subject.
Okay. Oh, and we can tell if you're not taking or not watching. We can tell when you're asleep. Your camera is on.
Big brother.
Yes. Okay. Right. Well, I'm going to create some random subscribers now. This is actually the main reason why subscribers are created in the first place. I have to say I tend to use subscribers, or I tend to use non-random subscribers for pretty much everything I do, because most of the time I'm working on a project and we already know where the subscribers are going to be. But the whole idea originally for subscribers was they were going to be Monte Carlo rice grains, You just chuck them onto a piece of terrain, and then you can then use them for various calculations to do with, well, I don't know, the capacity of the band and whether or not you cause interference to neighbours and all that sort of stuff. So random subscribers, quite an old function of telecom, and we'll do a couple of subscribery sort of things, just to give you a feel for how it all works. The thing about subscribers is that they don't sit in a database. Well, they sit in a database, but it's the database sticks with telecom. It doesn't stick with your project. That's the only thing about subscribers. So when you save your project and send it to somebody, there's a good chance that the subscribers don't go with it, or at least if they do, they have to. The subscriber database that goes with it has to be loaded up specifically. It doesn't come from here, from the project manager screen. It comes from there, the subscriber database. We're picking it up, and then you have your subscriber databases. So you can pick up a subscriber database and dump it in. If you have lots of stations, like, oh, I don't know, a network of customers or something like that, you can keep them in a subscriber database and put them into any project you want. That's the whole idea of it. The only thing is, when you're backing them up, back them up, because they are just a binary glob, and if something goes wrong with your subscriber database, it's gone. There's nothing you can do with it, and because it's just a simple text file, or not simple text file, it's a binary file. It doesn't sit on a database server or anything like that. So you have to take a bit of care of it, and it's quite important to take care of it if you have anything important in a subscriber database. So what I'm going to do is just randomly create some subscribers and use them to answer a question. First question, I think, will be, what I'll do is I'll just bung a whole load of subscribers into within the ring road of Dundee, and see where would be a good spot to put. Let's just sort of assume that they're wireless internet nodes. So we'll just see where we can find a place to put a point of presence. So the first thing you want to do is go up to this button here, which thankfully, unlike most parts of telecom, has a tooltips, and it's drawing a polygon, and what we're going to do is draw a mask. If you've created this beforehand, that's fine, but I haven't, so I'm just going to draw a mask. It doesn't have to be particularly accurate. This particular one, we're just going to randomly, clonk a mask around Dundee, isolate it. To draw the mask, you can click to make the mask points, and the last one you right click, and that closes it. At this point, I could save it if I wanted to. What I want to actually do is continue. I don't want to save this afterwards. And the first thing it does, it's a bit like when you draw a rectangle. You draw the rectangle and you get an option list pop up asking you what you want to do. And in this case, we're going to go to the subscribers menu, and we're going to generate some subscribers. And because it's a town, and it doesn't really matter too much, you could, for instance, for this, I could actually just put subscribers into the park in the middle of town if I wanted to, but at this point I'm just going to put them on everything. Doesn't really matter too much. We'll have 50 subscribers because I don't want to sit and spend too much time waiting for this process to continue, the bit that I'm just about to do. Normally you'd use more, but this is a quick demo. The most important thing when you're doing this is to make sure that you have the correct parameters, because the parameters are whatever it is that you used last time, which may not always be what you want. There's nothing worse than going through this whole process, creating a whole load of subscribers, and then finding out that they were, the last time, they were 50-watt broadcast transmitters or something like that. So always check your parameters, and they're definitely not what I want. So again, you can collect your signal type. We'll make them Wi-Fi, not for what, just for fun. No power, 8 dB antennas, so the little corner reflector type things. Transmit frequency, I'll put them on 2400 meg band. That'll do, I think, pretty much for everything. Call sign will be orphan, or should be. With a subscriber, if you give it the call sign orphan, that word, that means that it isn't attached to anything. That actually physically changes its status from being parented to orphaned. And the antenna, I'm going to change back to Omni from whatever it was, which was some kind of dish. I think that's basically all we need to do with that. That's all we need for that. Subscriber database, it could be that one. Yeah, okay, blast. I've done it again. I don't want the subscriber database. I'll just click OK on that. There we go. Right, there's our 50 subscribers. Let's put it into the wrong database, but it doesn't matter too much because I think it was empty anyway. There's our random subscribers. Now we want to just find a place where everyone there can, or pretty much everyone can see a base station. So here under subscribers, the pull down menu, there's various things, and what we're after actually is site searching. Global parenting is what we tend to do with subscribers, but since there's no base station, that's grayed out. So first thing we've got to create a base station. Site searching is what we want. Again, a very familiar dialog box, almost identical to the last one. This one allows you to choose where you want to put your base station and how you want to set the base station up. There's two ways of doing this. There's sort of a line of sight method, which is fast, and then there's field strength calculation, which is slow. This essentially does a coverage plot for every subscriber with its operational parameters on a particular frequency to a particular type of base station, in this case with its antenna 5 meters off the ground, which is a bit low. And there's your threshold. So that actually would on this, in this case, do 50 coverage plots, which will take us into probably the early afternoon, knowing the algorithm that I've got this thing set up to use. So we're not going to do that. We'll just do a quick random check to see what we've got. And what we'll do is we'll actually just put these sites into, what shall we use? Let's just bring all the urban clutter in. Might use Park and Wood, a building, an open rural maybe. Yeah, just sort of random. I mean, the idea is that what we're actually looking for in this case, or high urban would be useful, except there isn't any around there. So what we're really doing is just sort of choosing where we'd like to put our base station, or where we think we want to use our base station. And this is antenna height above the clutter layer. This here. Default antenna height can be whatever you want it to be, but we'll do it as 5 meters. It doesn't make much difference, but it's height above the clutter, which is always quite useful to know. The distance is always 5,000 kilometers, so you always have to change that to something more sensible. It doesn't make a lot of difference for the line of sight. It does when you're doing a field strength calculation and you're doing a small area of a large map, because it will take forever. So always remember to make sure that that is less than 5,000 kilometers. We've already got the subscribers, but you can actually just pick subscribers up straight out of that if you haven't created them beforehand. And fingers crossed that I've set it up properly. It should run. And it did, and I think I'm going to have to put the base station slightly higher up. You can actually see it's just illuminated Craigowell, which is a big hill just north of Dundee that pretty much everything is on if you're doing a wide area system. I obviously need to improve my height. So we'll go to 15 meters because that's something I'm going to have to add manually into all of these. Wouldn't it be nice not to have to do this? Well, yes, but it has to be. The problem with this, if you don't have this, so you change it manually, but if you change the default to say 25 meters and then everything changes to 25 meters, guaranteed that you're the kind of person that's already set all this stuff up to be the right height and just wants to change the default antenna height, and now everything's gone to the default antenna height and you want to change it back. So that's the reason why you have to change all these things manually. It gives you control. It's annoying sometimes if you want to do something quickly, but it gives you control. Let's see if 15 meters improves things. Yeah, a little bit. I'm obviously using the wrong frequency or the wrong heights. Let's just try something different here. So this is basically how you would improve things. Subscriber database, that one. What I'm going to do is change the antenna parameters, change the antenna pattern. I'm just going to make sure that these are actually omni, because I have a feeling that they are probably not omni. Right, there we go. Now, when you're changing, another handy hint, when you're changing antenna patterns, or when you change the antenna, you can change all sorts of stuff to do with the antenna, but the pattern is quite important. It's quite often that you don't want to change. So there is actually a little option here that says do not change antenna pattern. So if you go into this thing and you want to change the antenna pattern, you have to untick do not change the antenna pattern, or all your changes will not happen. Right, make sure we've got select all. And just make sure we've got it right this time. Are they omnidirectional? No, they're not particularly good. But anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to look and see who's covered where. If you hover over this area here, very low amount. As usual, this is one thing I didn't want to do. I have to change this even higher. I have to do that. What I've done is I've got too smaller set of subscribers, or two subscribers are too small, and I'm trying to calculate within an area where it'll light up some more areas now. There we go. What I was trying to do was pick up a point somewhere within here where everyone was able to get a signal, but obviously they're too low down in the clutter even doing anything else with it. So this now shows me this area here. If you look here under the in the palette, the light browns show a higher percentage of subscribers covered. So that's that on the other side of town. And if you know this area, this is a hill that's visible pretty much across the bay from anywhere in Dundee, which is what it's doing. So that's where you put your base station for this particular job. But that actually isn't quite what I was hoping. There is actually a rather nice lump just in the middle of town here, which surprisingly enough these stations aren't all looking at. Anyway, yeah, that's sort of a random subscriber thing. Now what I can do is I just go into the subscriber database and delete them all, and bring my map back. You can also create subscribers. You can generate them based on clutter. So I can generate random subscribers, and in this case, I've actually set it up already. This is generating random subscribers to a particular type of clutter. So you can dump them into the urban area here, and you can put your density of how many subscribers you want in a particular urban area. What I've got here is I've got hydro, 1 subscriber per square kilometre. So what I'm effectively doing is dumping these poor little fellas into the sea. So they're effectively, let's just check, make sure that that is transmit. This is something else that, if I just click OK on that, where it says random transmitter parameters, that isn't randomize the transmitter parameters. That is, what parameters do you want your random subscribers to have for their transmitters? What we want to do is make them 1 watt, operating 150 megs, antenna height 8 meters. Okay, we'll leave that for the time being. So it's effectively a small boat, yacht, something like that, with a little hand portable antenna or aerial or hand portable radio, probably, or little low power radio, probably got an external antenna on the mast. It's that sort of thing that I'm trying to create. So if I click OK, let's make sure everything else is right. It should create subscribers all over the sea. There they are. I've got 81 of them. It's 81 square kilometers of water, roughly. This isn't the land, by the way. This is actually a mud flat. So these fellas are aground, but they are in what would be known as hydro clutter. If you look at the clutter layer, there's the clutter layer for this area, and you can see that these are actually areas of flooded. So it's high tide. That's why they're there. Go back to the main map. And I'll probably have to now, if your subscribers disappear, there are 2 reasons why. One, a process you've done has unselected them, and if you unselect your subscribers, they don't appear. So you can select a random, say 2 or 3 subscribers, click close, and there's your 2 or your 3 subscribers. So if your subscribers all disappear, it's because they've been unselected for some reason or another in the database. There we are. And if they don't even appear there under object, another handy hint, object properties, as long as you've got that box ticked there, your subscribers will be displayed. If you have a huge subscriber database, and every time you try and do anything in telecom, and it takes a very long time for everything to appear, it's because you have a subscriber database loaded. You're having to load all your subscribers in the background, and they may not even be on the project that you're working on. They might be somewhere else on the map. But telecom will still load them if you have that ticked, and it will take time to load them. If you have a couple of thousand subscribers, you might wait 3 or 4 seconds or maybe 5 seconds for something to happen, and it gets really annoying. So the first thing you do is you go there and make sure that your subscribers are not ticked. If you don't want to see subscribers, untick that, and your experience of telecom will be much faster. Anyway, there are our subscribers, and we'll do another check here just to see what kind of site they can all see. And what I'll do is I'll untick hydro, and actually I'll untick all these. These don't matter too much because they're indoor parameters. So I'm going to untick hydro. So let's see which part of the coast these fellas can see. Click OK, and it builds up a plot, and you can see there's areas like this headland here where there's a very high probability that stations will be received. And you can actually just change the palette. If you change that to, let's say, red, and everything else to light blue, I might need to change other things as well, but you can change all these to the same color. It makes it a bit less messy. I might make that one red as well. So that gives you a better view of where your subscribers are likely to be able to talk to. So if you're going to put a coast radio station here to talk to small boats in the bay here. You've got a choice of there, which is I think where it actually is, or here, which is where there's actually, I think, the harbour master or something will be located here anyway. So those are your locations. This is probably a little bit too far inland, but will work. But that would be how you would try and work out where would be a good place to cover a site, rather than sort of randomly dumping it on there and then doing a coverage plot and thinking, well, it's not very good over here. If you use subscribers and you just chuck them in the sea randomly and then look backwards to see where they can see, you get a much better idea of what's going on. So anyway, that's randomly random subscribers. Probably rambled on too much about that, but it's quite a deep subject. Subscribers are really useful, and if you sort of get used to them, you can use them for all sorts of stuff. Anyway, Sarah, that's probably it. I've probably rambled on about 20 minutes too long for that one.
That one did go on a little while. Okay, Simon.
Is everyone awake still? Yeah.
They're all still with us. If we could move on to the next one. Any questions we've got relating to that we could pick up at the end, that'd be great. So Simon, on to the next one with full speed. Thank you.
Okay, this I'll do this quickly. This one's very quick. It's either quick or I'll break it. We'll see. Right. What I'll do now is remember object properties, undisplay your subscribers, bing, gone. That's the most important thing to do. I've still got those subscribers in the subscriber database and I can pick them up if I need to, but I don't want them.
Simon, what are we covering?
Yep. This is microwave link.
Lovely.
This is I'm just going to plonk a microwave link onto the map, and I do have one, and it's a real one. I'm not a microwave link planner. Don't do it very often, so don't ask me any detailed questions on this. But this will cover pretty much the subject, which is just you've put in a microwave link, and you just want to know what kind of power is going to be needed for that link. Now in the UK, you don't need to know the assigned power. You just really need to know how much, what kind of class of transmitter are you going to need for this link. Because it's important to know what kind of equipment you're going to use or whatever. So I'm going to pull it out of my database, if I can get Telecom to wake up. And it's probably, okay, that's better. I had something else open. Database, just from the local microwave link table. If you're running with databases and you've got all these fellas on here, if you click skip out of map, it just brings up the one link in this case that's actually in this map. Everything else is up country somewhere and not in this map. So I'll bring that one onto the map. So there's your test microwave link, and if you look at the microwave list, we can quickly check its parameters and make sure that it's what we want. And I'm actually going to make that, give it sort of a -10 dBm power output to start with. So it's, as I say, it's a working microwave link, but we've set it to about medium power, and we then need to tell it what kind of range of power it's adjustable to, and that's under here in common. And the function is actually going to use this feature here, the dynamic power range. It doesn't have to be this isn't automatic dynamic power range. This is how's it adjustable by. There might be a knob you can turn with a twiddling stick inside the equipment, or more likely these days it's going to be something you can program directly, maybe remotely, but you need to know what the power is, and that's the power range. And I've given it 40 dB primarily because the function only adjusts the power by half the dynamic range, which sort of assumes that your microwave link is set to its medium power when you're doing this. But I don't know what that's going to be, so set it to 40. So there's your microwave link. Now, the next thing you need to do is to set it up. Let's see where we got it. There we go. What I'll do is I'll just show you quickly the path profile just to make sure that it's actually there. So there's your path profile, and damn if I haven't already put the right power into it by mistake more than anything else. So yeah, it's a perfectly line of sight, top of a hill to bottom of a valley type microwave link, and the reliability is actually not far off what it should be. It'll work. That's what Telecom is telling me. So what we want to do is to actually set the power for a particular availability. So in the microwave menu, you've got link path budget, which we used earlier. And yes, the F1 key will work on this one. And we're going to set the availability to 99.999. So it's high availability. Fade margin isn't involved in this. It's really just the availability we're working on. This function here, the ITUR P530 method, is what we're using. Now P530, recent versions of P530 have got a little bit of a problem with quite a number of the calculations within them, or the equations within them, in that they're actually inverted to what they should be. This produces silly numbers. Not particularly bad, but if you're a microwave planner and you've been trying to use microwave planning using this method within Telecom or any other tool, in fact, that uses the latest recommendations, you might have looked at the numbers and thought, hang on a minute, that isn't quite right. Well, that's because the ITU actually published erroneous data. So the latest version of Telecom that we're testing at the moment has that calculation correct, or those calculations corrected, but I'm not sure whether the ITU have actually published an updated recommendation yet. I think version 17 is the version that's out at the moment, and it's I think that's still wrong. But actually, for the UK, not so sure whether that's right. This is a version that contains the wrong numbers, but most people would probably know what they should be. I'm going to guess -200 for this part of the UK. Doesn't make a lot of difference for this because it's just a demo, but be aware that if you're getting the wrong numbers, that's because the ITU have messed up a little bit on that. And just use whatever numbers you're happy with, and we'll be producing an up-to-date version or an updated version as soon as we can. So right, what we've done is just put in 99.999% reliability. That's what we want. You click OK. You get a report back that tells you what your reliability actually is, that it's decided. What we need to do, which is actually take a few dB off the transmitter, and you can export that to a spreadsheet if you want, but in this case not. And if you can go back to the microwave list and look at the path profile, it should now say yeah, so it's about right. 99.999, and the powers should have been adjusted. No, tell a lie. Go back to it again. God, you can see I'm getting myself. I'm not an expert in this. Right, 99.999. Modify transmit power. That'll do it. If you leave no change, it doesn't do anything. That's why it wasn't looking or doing what it should do. It tells you what you need to change, but it doesn't actually do it. There we go. So now we can look back at this, and path profile will actually make a bit more sense to me now. Yeah. So there's your reliability for 10 to the -6 is actually 4 nines rather than 3 nines. And if you want to just 99.999% or reliability, you need to take another 15.5 dB off, which is basically telling me that I haven't got enough adjustment on the transmitter to get the reliability I want, but it's actually better than you want. I'd need an attenuator or something. So that's how it works. And then if you look at the parameters, the power's gone down by 8.42 dB and 8.83 dB on that one. So that's so it's automatically adjusted the power for the required availability within the limits of the movement that it's allowed. It needs more movement really to get the that sort of level of reliability down from what I've given it, which was quite a reasonable power level to start with. Anyway, yeah, that's it. Quickly done. All done, Sarah.
That's fabulous. Thank you, Simon. Any questions, anyone? Okay, we don't appear to have any at the moment. There aren't any hands up. So can I suggest we move on to the next one? I think we got one last subject and then we got some handy hints to do. So it's station parameters.
I've done station parameters.
My apologies.
You were asleep during that.
Right, I did. I was snoozing.
Yeah, I finished.
Okay, so just the handy hints then.
I've done all the handy hints as well, pretty much.
Super. Can we just?
There's one. Well, there's two actually. There are two quick handy hints. When you're making a microwave link, you press the microwave button, you go clickety click. There's my microwave link. Yeah, okay. Well, actually, no. You once you've done that, you can say load standard parameters for microwave links and maybe change the locations and get more accurate. But you created your link. The handy hint is once you've done that, go out of microwave mode. Otherwise, no matter where you click on the screen, you're just going to keep adding microwave endpoints, and that's really annoying. So just remember to go back out of microwave mode. That's what happens if you start clicking on that and you get another red dot rather than the site parameters screen. You're still in microwave mode. The other one is a little bit more technical. Let's say here we're using ICS Telecom 15.4.3, which is the current release version. Now, obviously, if you're a microwave planner, you'll be wanting to have the updated version at some point, but you're not sure that you'd want to just go straight over to this version. So we supply you with the updated version. You want to run both together. You don't have to uninstall Telecom before you reinstall or before you install the new Telecom. You do, but you don't have to lose your old copy of Telecom. If you want to keep this version and install the new version, so that you can check the new version out and make sure it does what you want it to do without actually burning your boats, the easiest way to do it is to, and this is a sneaky handy hint. Here's my ICS Telecom EV64 folder. And I've already done this because the version I'm actually using is this one here. What you do is you just copy it and then just paste it somewhere. And this will take a while, so I might stop it. But so you'd copy and paste it, and it would produce a folder like that with copy and give it a different name, something like that. Now you can uninstall Telecom from there. So you go into the normal uninstall process, you uninstall Telecom from there, install a new version, and so for instance, if I open up this sort by type and open up that copy of Telecom, this is the new version of Telecom, this is the test version. And if you look here in the about field, it's a user test version. It's a pre-release version of 15.5, and there's your date, September the 11th, which is the latest version. And at the same time, I'm also running down here Telecom 15.4.3, which is the current release version. And the reason for that is that within the ATDI folder, there's your installed 15.5, and down here is 15.4.3 that I've copied and pasted. And if you then run that version, and you can run multiple copies of Telecom as well, you'd like to know. So here's 15.4.3. Now the only thing is that the icon within Windows, and I can't show you that, but in the start menu icon will be for the version of Telecom that you've installed. So if you click the start menu icon for Telecom, it'll be 15.5 in my case. So you either have to go directly to the folder or the copied folder to fire off the old version of Telecom, or you create a shortcut in there and then you put that on your desktop, or it's put in the start menu as well. And that's the only way to do it. But you can run multiple copies of Telecom and multiple versions all at the same time, as long as your license lets you do it. And if you've got a single user license on a single user machine, as long as it's you, the single user, that's doing it, you can have as many copies of Telecom running as you want until your computer crashes due to lack of resources. So you can have several copies of Telecom running. And in fact, if you're doing, there's the other handy hint, if you're doing a lot of calculations, have several copies of Telecom doing batched calculations, because it actually is a little bit more efficient than having a single copy of Telecom doing everything one after the other. So, you know, running almost parallel computing. Right, yeah, that's it, Sarah. That's the handy hint for the day. Copy and paste.
Fabulous, thank you for that.